What that got to do with Kendrick?
Well, I'm not
He
saying it
got
has
shot
anything to
where?
do.
In Canada?
Welcome back to Fame Flux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. What started as a lyrical feud has now exploded into something way darker. Kendrick Lamar has just survived a murder attempt, and the trail is pointing straight toward Drake. With a federal case closing in, he could be facing a massive sentence and the complete end of everything he has built. Here are all the details. Let's break it down and see when the beef turned bloody. The tension between Drake and Kendrick had been building for well over a decade. But when it finally exploded, it did so with the force of a nuclear bomb felt across the industry. The spark that lit this powder keg came when J. Cole tried to play peacemaker, referencing the big three of hip-hop on Drake's first-person shooter. But Kendrick wasn't accepting any of that.
What I like was he was speaking on people writing for Drake. Beam is a producer and a songwriter. He also called out Drake for using AI diss to diss him in the tailor-made freestyle.
Refusing to share the crown. When he delivered that fire verse on Future and Metro Boomin's Like That in March 2024, rejecting the big three notion with, "Mother, the big three, it's just big me." He wasn't just dissing Drake. He was declaring war on everything the Toronto superstar represented in the culture. Drake stepped up to the challenge with push-ups and that controversial tailor-made freestyle using AI-generated voices of Tupac and Snoop. But nothing could have prepared the hip-hop world for the surgical precision Kendrick was about to unleash.
He dropped 616 right after Euphoria. We weren't expecting that just because of the way Kendrick puts out music. We wasn't expecting a back-to-back.
Right.
Then Drake comes with Family Matters, which I think is phenomenal.
Kendrick fired back at Drake's disses with Euphoria on April 30th, a 6-minute lyrical assault produced by Soundwave and Jack Antonoff. It went directly for Drake's throat, questioning his authenticity, his parenting, his fashion choices, and even his right to use the N-word. But the real ones knew this was just Kendrick warming up for something far more devastating.
No less than 30 minutes, Kendrick stepped on that record with his own record about Drake's family, Meet the Grams. Then Kendrick turned around and did what we was waiting on Drake to do, and that's give us a diss bop.
This track had Kendrick calling Drake a master manipulator and habitual liar, even referencing Drake's work on the HBO show Euphoria. But Kendrick was just getting started. He had far more smoke for Drake's camp. A few days later, Kendrick dropped 616 in LA, loaded with inside information, and claiming Drake's own OVO crew was snitching and feeding him intel. The title itself was straight up disrespectful, biting Drake's trademark timestamp format just to prove he could do everything Drake did, only better. But May 3rd, 2024, was when things turned truly deadly in the eyes of the culture.
When I heard Kendrick's the Meet the Grams record, when he started writing letters to his mom, his dad, and his kids, I said, we got to fight now. We got to fight.
Yo, he literally says to his mom on the record, "Your son should die."
This was the night that showed everyone exactly how far two lyrical assassins were willing to go to prove who really ruled these streets. Drake struck first with Family Matters, an 8-minute track accompanied by a full music video where he accused Kendrick of assaulting his partner, Whitney Alford, and cheating on her. Drake even suggested that one of Kendrick's children wasn't actually his, claiming business partner Dave Free was the real father, a move designed to hit below the belt. But Kendrick came prepared for all-out war.
And it's not going to take me almost 2 days to reply to Meet the Grams and not like us.
Maybe
No.
not. I think you've given Kendrick benefit of the doubt because you're a light-skinned hater.
Less than 20 minutes after Family Matters dropped, he clapped back with Meet the Grams, a track that was straight up diabolical. In it, he addressed Drake's mother, his father, his son Adonis, and even an alleged daughter that might not exist, telling them directly that their son was both a fraud and a predator. The cover art featured a glove, a pointed reference to the O.J. Simpson trial, while the title played directly on Drake's government name, Aubrey Graham, cementing this as one of the most personal diss records in modern hip-hop history. This was psychological warfare that went far beyond the scope of regular hip-hop beef. But Kendrick was nowhere near finished. The very next day, he dropped the bombshell that would change everything. and ultimately lead to real shooters allegedly pulling up to Drake's Toronto residence on May 4th. Kendrick released Not Like Us, produced by DJ Mustard, and this track became more than just a diss record. It turned into a cultural phenomenon and a rallying cry.
I think it was Sluggo who told me that one of them, I think it must have been Drake who was talking about his, he dissed him by talking about his size 7 feet or something, right? And that's fine. I think it's great. If everybody would just if the Israelis and Hamas would go after each other in song.
Battle raps.
Yeah, battle raps. Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, dance off.
That's how they should do it.
In the song, Kendrick accused Drake of being a pimp and a culture vulture, calling him a colonizer who exploited and stole from black culture. The cover art depicted Drake's Toronto mansion marked with red dots, resembling offender registry indicators, while the music video showed Kendrick destroying an owl piñata, a clear representation of Drake's OVO label. From the opening beat, this track felt different. It carried that infectious West Coast bounce that made it an instant street anthem, debuting at #1 with 21 million streams in just 3 days. It would eventually cross over 1 billion streams worldwide. But more importantly, it united the entire West Coast against Drake, turning the track into a full-blown movement. Drake fired back on May 5th with The Heart Part 6, attempting to deny Kendrick's accusations of predatory behavior. He argued that if there were truth to the claims, he would have already been arrested. And he tried to flip the narrative by saying he had fed Kendrick false information about a secret daughter. But by that point, the damage had been done. Critics and fans alike noted that Drake sounded defensive, drained, and as though he was slowly running out of firepower to keep the battle alive. The streets had already chosen their side, and it wasn't with the boy from Toronto. But this is where the story turned frightening, showing exactly how dangerous hip-hop can get when people take the music far too seriously. The inflammatory lyrics and provocative imagery from Not Like Us were about to have real-world consequences that shook the entire culture to its core. 3 days after the track dropped, on May 7th, 2024, armed shooters pulled up to Drake's Toronto mansion and opened fire. This was no publicity stunt. It was a real drive-by shooting that nearly cost someone their life. According to court documents that surfaced later, the gunman arrived at Drake's estate on 21 Park Lane Circle in the dead of night. Before shots rang out, one of them reportedly yelled, "Drake," then unleashed gunfire. 2 bullets hit, one lodged into the mansion's front door, and another struck Drake's security guard, leaving him seriously wounded. For nearly 30 minutes before paramedics arrived, Drake's team worked desperately to keep the guard alive, applying pressure with towels to slow the bleeding as blood covered the ground. This was life-or-death reality, a brutal reminder of how rap beef can spiral into deadly territory. The violence didn't end there. The very next day, another man attempted to break into Drake's property by digging under the security fence. When confronted by guards, he hurled racist slurs and shouted violent threats before being escorted off the premises. Then, on May 9th, the situation escalated even further. A third incident erupted when another trespasser appeared at Drake's property, sparking a physical altercation with his security team. This individual was ultimately arrested and transported to the hospital for treatment. While authorities stated they couldn't confirm a direct connection to the ongoing rap feud, the timing felt too calculated to dismiss. Only days after a song accused Drake of predatory behavior, showed his mansion marked like an offender registry, and stirred global controversy, gunmen and unpredictable trespassers began appearing at his doorstep. To many observers, this seemed far more than a coincidence. These incidents signaled a dangerous turning point, forcing the hip-hop community to face uncomfortable truths about how quickly competitive lyrical battles can escalate into physical violence, legal clashes, and even life-threatening situations. Meanwhile, as Drake dealt with armed attacks and attempted break-ins, Kendrick Lamar appeared to be enjoying a full-blown victory lap. Riding the wave of momentum from the feud, Kendrick hosted his now iconic pop-out concert at the Kia Forum in Inglewood on June 19, 2024. During the event, he performed Not Like Us 5 consecutive times, each one louder than the last, while bringing out West Coast legends like Dr. Dre and YG to underline that the entire coast stood firmly behind him. The concert became a symbolic celebration, a public declaration that Kendrick had claimed the upper hand, uniting the West Coast and solidifying his position as one of rap's most dominant forces. What truly fueled conversation was the noticeable absence of loyalty from certain artists. Many performers and collaborators who had benefited greatly from Drake's platform over the years were now proudly aligning themselves with Kendrick, choosing sides in a rivalry that had gone far beyond music. The message couldn't have been clearer. Despite Drake blessing countless artists with high-profile features and helping elevate their careers, when the moment came to choose sides, the culture firmly aligned with Kendrick Lamar. That had to be a bitter pill to swallow. Kendrick's Not Like Us went on to dominate the 2025 Grammy Awards on February 2nd, sweeping 5 major categories: Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Song, Best Rap Performance, and Best Music Video. This was unprecedented. No diss track had ever achieved such mainstream acclaim, industry recognition, and critical respect on this scale. But the true power move arrived just a week later at the Super Bowl 59 halftime show on February 9th, 2025 in New Orleans. With 133.5 million viewers watching, Kendrick performed Not Like Us live, electrifying the stage and even bringing out Serena Williams, who once had ties to Drake, to dance alongside him. It was a symbolic, highly public victory lap that made headlines across the globe. While Kendrick celebrated and basked in the spotlight, Drake was quietly preparing his next move, one that would shift the battlefield from music to the courts. On January 15, 2025, Drake filed an 81-page federal lawsuit against Universal Music Group, the label representing both him and Kendrick. The lawsuit accused UMG of defamation and harassment, alleging that the company actively promoted Not Like Us, despite knowing it contained false, damaging claims portraying Drake as a pimp and trafficker. According to Drake's legal team, UMG's actions directly fueled a wave of real-world consequences, including the May 2024 shooting at his Toronto mansion, the serious injury to his security guard, and the string of dangerous trespassing incidents that followed. But the most explosive element of Drake's lawsuit was his assertion that Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us was not simply a diss track. It was, in his words, a dangerous weapon that inspired attempted murder and nearly cost him his life. According to the filing, Drake's legal team accused Universal Music Group of using bots, paid radio placements, and other illicit tactics to artificially inflate streams for Not Like Us, a track they claimed falsely painted Drake as a criminal. Buried deep in the 81-page legal complaint was an even more alarming allegation that the song's campaign had directly contributed to what Drake's attorneys framed as an attempted hit on his life. The lawsuit pointed to Not Like Us cover art, which depicted Drake's Toronto mansion marked with red pins resembling offender registry markers, alleging it was designed to provoke vigilante action and encourage street justice against him. Drake's lawyers positioned the blame on UMG's corporate greed, steering clear of targeting Kendrick directly. They claimed the label knowingly promoted and amplified defamatory lyrics while leveraging imagery that revealed Drake's home address, which, they argued, directly set the stage for the May 7th, 2024 shooting. In February 2025, the legal complaint was updated to include Kendrick's 5 Grammy wins and his high-profile Super Bowl 59 performance, asserting that UMG exploited these moments to further harm Drake's reputation. Drake's team argued that the halftime show broadcast led millions of viewers to perceive Kendrick's accusations as verified truth, placing their client in even greater danger. UMG, however, fired back swiftly, denying all allegations and framing Drake's lawsuit as an attempt to salvage pride after suffering a decisive and highly public loss in a rap battle he willingly entered. They filed court papers in March 2025 seeking to have Drake's lawsuit dismissed, describing it as nothing more than a distraction from the fact that UMG was simply doing its job, promoting Kendrick's music and generating profit. However, industry insiders began to realize that if Drake's case were to succeed, it could set a groundbreaking precedent. Record labels might, for the first time, face legal liability for promoting diss tracks containing serious and potentially dangerous allegations. Now, officially a federal case, the battle raised pressing questions about artistic expression in hip-hop, and whether both the artists and the corporate executives who profit from their work should be held accountable when disputes spill into real-world violence. Reactions from critics and fans were sharply divided. Some celebrated the feud as proof that hip-hop's competitive spirit was alive and thriving, while others warned it was setting a dangerous precedent for the culture's future. The situation also underscored how technology and social media had amplified the stakes of modern rap beef. On Google Maps, Drake's Toronto mansion was relabeled with mocking captions like, "Owned by Kendrick," a direct nod to the track's lyrics. The song's viral reach meant its inflammatory accusations could be seen and believed by millions in mere hours. Meanwhile, the tension wasn't confined to courtrooms and streaming platforms. In Toronto, local rapper Top 5, believed to have connections to Drake, made public threats toward Kendrick, vowing to shoot him if he ever set foot in the city. Those threats escalated in seriousness when Kendrick and SZA announced a joint tour that included a June 12th performance at the Rogers Center, right in the heart of Drake's home turf. The announcement was a bold statement, signaling that Kendrick was unafraid of Drake or his affiliates, and that he would perform wherever he pleased, no matter the risks involved. This wasn't just Kendrick rejecting J. Cole's attempt at a friendly Big Three moment. It was a direct statement to Drake and the entire industry that he considered himself the undisputed king. Kendrick reinforced this with his now famous comparison, likening himself to Prince and casting Drake as Michael Jackson, implying that he held greater artistic credibility and would ultimately outlast his rival. The track rocketed to #1 and remained there for 3 consecutive weeks, signaling that this battle was poised to become bigger than anything the genre had seen in years. What followed escalated the feud from a competitive lyrical exchange into a volatile saga involving real-world violence and street-level danger. J. Cole attempted to step in with 7-minute drill, taking aim at Kendrick's catalog, but quickly retracted the diss at his Dreamville festival, calling it a misstep. That left Drake standing alone to face one of the most relentless lyricists ever to hold a microphone. Drake responded with push-ups and tailor-made freestyle, the latter featuring AI-generated voices of Tupac and Snoop Dogg, a provocative move that sparked major debate. Still, nothing could have prepared the culture for Kendrick's next moves. The Compton MC wasn't aiming to simply win. He was out to dismantle Drake's credibility entirely and leave his legacy in question. Looking back, the signs were all there. Kendrick's calculated narrative building, the swelling tide of industry support in his favor, and Drake's growing isolation. It was clear this confrontation would be unlike anything hip-hop had experienced before. The story is far from over. As court proceedings continue and both artists push forward with their careers, the world of hip-hop is left watching, waiting to see how this unprecedented clash will ultimately reshape the culture. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap any video on your screen for more deep dives into the biggest moments in music history.